Hey, it's been a while. I did my last stream just on the day before I started my new job, and job was uh, pretty busy, and some other stuff. I think in the meanwhile, I think I recorded like a couple of shorts, and I've been kind of like active on Twitter and stuff, but didn't have chance to work on the stream. And part of it is that um, a lot of the stuff that I was streaming, I kind of like try to try to do something that is kind of like useful for work. But on this new job, I'm kind of like too busy uh, fixing kind of like obviously broken stuff. So like uh, not like digging too much into like new things. Which could change a bit. We're using kind of like some new tools that I might kind of like look a bit more into investigating and such. But yeah, like I was trying to find a way to kind of like use two things, and the big previous project was Go. How do I say it? Go framework that implements React Server components patterns. Not exactly React Server components like the library that everyone expects, but it's the same idea. Um, and yeah, and that one I did like a not 10, but like maybe like 7 videos or something like that, and I didn't want to stream like one more of those. So I was kind of like looking for something new to stream about, and this is how this kind of like star of this video shows up. Um, Pickle. I looked before into this programming language called Doll. I don't remember how I got to this. It it feels like from Chris Griffin. He was uh, saying something like, "Hey, JSON is bad," or like YAML is bad, but like something else is good. So I just like went a bit and like investigated what are all the options and such. Um, so I looked a bit into DAL and I like the syntax, and I don't know how to say it, but like like this overcomplicated thing with um what do they call it? Yeah, like hash based and like stuff. I was like, I don't know. This is too much. So I haven't written like a line in Doll, but I read a bit about their docs. That's how we got to Pickle, which is for me, for some reason, it's funny, and I feel like every time I hear Pickle, I think Tickle, because this is like a programming language that I think it used to be popular like 20 years ago or so. So I don't know. Like I always think about it. Uh, and I don't remember if I wrote anything with it, but I know that like TK, the like the like the graphical library. Uh, I think Erlang was using it or something like that. So there are like bindings for Erlang. This is kind of like the biggest probably thing that I actually touched with Tickle. So yeah, uh, while I was preparing for this stream, actually, like Theo and Prime both did a video about it. Um, I don't remember anything kind of like memorable from their videos. Uh, Interesting thing that like Primeagen, I think, when he was looking at Pickle, he's like, "Hey, this looks like Nix." So that was like an uh, interesting idea about like having kind of like almost DSL, right? Like very specific language for very specific thing. Um, so yeah, maybe I will remember something else. But um, let's say that you don't know anything about pickle, and how would you start with it? So I think the first thing that we would want to start is get it installed. I don't have it installed, so how do I? What do I do? Okay, so I'm on pickle. I can do this. Like cool. Is it editable? No. Okay. Those guys don't seem to be web developers. Uh, so I think one of the first thing we want to do is probably like install. Yeah, I think they used to have install instructions here, so it's like crazy that I don't see it on the homepage. But hey, um, so uh, yeah, so if I go to docs installation, I'm on macOS, so let's see how I can install this. Interesting. So they're not even installing it globally. But why? Why wouldn't you want to install it globally? Huh. What the hell? Because like all of the instructions are if you installed it, right? It's like, hey, use this command, use this command. But it asking me to install it locally. Okay, this is crazy. Um yeah. So I guess I wanted to create a project. Uh okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to solve advent of code using pickle. Well, if I can do that. So we'll try. 24, I guess. Uh, so repo new. I think it's like that. Wait. Okay. What's wrong with it? Public required when not running interactively. Okay. Not against you running interactively. What's that? Okay. Public. Okay. What? Okay. Clone. If it's not clone. Repo clone. Okay. Okay. This is slightly concerning, but okay. Um, okay. So let's get VS Code running. So now the first part is like installing Pickle. So let's install Pickle. 60 megabytes. It's not exactly zero. I wonder why it has to be so big. Uh, yeah, like the first start wasn't that fast, but maybe it was creating configs or something. But okay, I got there in the end. So now let's go back to the uh, VS Code stuff. First, they want us to install VSIX. Okay. Um, sure. Okay. So let's download it. And let's do code installing section. Download in whatever it was called, go is good. Okay, extension was successfully installed. Okay, how do I know that? Yeah, I don't know that. Yes, they can restart it. Oh, am I running insiders? Okay. Yeah, I probably installed it into the like normal one. Okay. I pickle. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this is slightly crazy. Oh, yeah, here it is. Here it is. Pickle. Syntax highlighting. Bracket matching. Okay. Uh, cool. Cool, cool, cool. No. I need to go back. Okay. Open pickle file and verify syntax highlighting works. Okay. So let's go back to docs. Um, okay, so we did install. Okay, so what are the commands? Eval, server, test, REPL, project, uh, project, download, own options. Okay, interesting. There's eval or REPL. Sorry. Yeah, 1+1, 2. Help. Expression, name, clear, examples. Okay. Example and examples does the same thing. Okay. So expression, strings, properties, objects, inheritance, force paired. What do you mean force paired? Okay. So now let's go to yeah. I guess yeah. So what is going to happen if I just create a file that is just test pickle, and that file is just 1+1? What's going to happen? So if I pickle eval, okay, expected, blah 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 blah. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that it's like not actually not actually enough. Okay, so if I do this, okay, and now I do well. Okay, it works. Okay, cool. Yeah, so um, I think the first kind of like thing that we have to figure out here um, is so I have this eval, right? So like I'm running this file and it's like, so what? I think the idea is to do something like this. So I can convert this thing now into something that could be consumed. They have libraries that allow you to kind of like consume it directly without like intermediate representation, but I think JSON is kind of like close enough to what we need here. What is JSON net? Interesting. What is JSON net? I see that it added like a comma here. I never heard about JSON net. JSON configuration language. Oh, what? Why? Okay. I'm just going to ignore that as if nothing happened. What's text product? Interesting. Okay. Do they explain any of this stuff somewhere? No, they don't. Yeah, not great. Okay, so used for embedding external clients such as, yeah, it's interesting that they don't have JavaScript APIs for this, which you would seem that it's going to be fine. Evaluate module as test, producing test support. Interesting. Okay, so if I do test, like, hey, we need dot test. Yeah, I haven't read anything about test yet. That could be a good thing to get back to. But now let's start with like a language reference. So we have comments, which we could use in our thing, which presumably hmm. Okay. Yeah, doesn't seem like they have like auto formatting or something like that, which for this year seems a bit strange. So we have different kinds of numbers. That's all fine. I'm looking more of kind of like functions, anonymous functions. Interesting. Interesting. That's pretty interesting. Okay, so if I do this, and if I eval it, okay, it can execute all of this stuff. Yeah, so that was the thing that uh, I wanted to play with. So what we are doing here is that we are writing configuration, right? So I have a server, and that server has, I don't know, like a public URL. And that public URL is going to be depending on the environment, right? So I have dev, QA, and prod. And it's like, oh, cool. I can reuse the same environment variable like 3 times and just like return different configs. It's like, well, I just need kind of like object lookup or kind of like if else or whatnot. So it's like, well, what if I want my port to be a prime number? And if it's not a prime number, it should just fail. Right? So the big kind of like thing that they have is that you can as a server, right? Like, I don't know, if you ever configured like Nginx or Apache back in the day, it's like, well, you have this text file, and it's just like, hopefully there are like enough comments or whatnot, and like you'll like reading docs to know how like everything is named. But here is like, well, I can publish some kind of like schema, but it's like, hey, this is what my server can accept. And it's like, well, how can I make it so it's like my server only accept port numbers if they are prime numbers, right? Like, how would you implement that? Or at least like Fibonacci. Um, yeah. So they, yeah, interesting. So like when I'm doing this, how does it know? How does it know types, right? So if I declare add, uh, cannot render value function, right? I think it should be like hidden. Okay. Now if I do add y, it requires two arguments. So it's like 4 and 5. Okay, fine. But now what if it's 4 and 5 as uh, as strings? Yeah, the syntax highlighting is having some issues. Interesting. Okay. But now what if I want to do 4 and 5 like this? Oh, operator is not defined for operand type string. Okay. What line did it break? Yeah, so but let's say I say that A and B have to be number. Interesting that it's like not int and float, but it's number. Okay, so now it says, hey, why are you trying to do this? I do string. Yeah, so now error is here. Okay, I don't know how to do this. So can I convert B to string before concatenating? Did you mean any of the following? To string. Okay, so let's say I meant to string. Any to string. Okay, so let's say number to string. No. Let's say B to string. Yes, it works. Okay. Um, yeah, the autocomplete and such like is not working. It's just syntax highlighting. But okay, we'll get there. Okay. They define pipe operator. That's cool. Have mixins, generator, predicates. What's flow patterns? Okay. Protect, override, record, delete, match, case, each const. What about hidden? I was using hidden. Flying identifiers. Dog comments. Yeah, and I think they said that if I have dogs, my thing. Yeah, so JSON doesn't have comments, but like XML can have comments. Yeah, interesting. User-facing documentation of a module or and its members is a one of. Okay. Yeah, I need to figure out. Okay, we can have a list, contains, reverse, drop. We have sets, maps, if expressions. Yeah, it's interesting that it's not if statements, it's if expressions. and this way it does look more like a uh, Nix. Yeah, resources. Yeah, it's interesting that it can read and prop. Interesting. File. HTTP. Oh, interesting. I was I was kind of like hoping that it can't read HTTP. That breaks my understanding of this a bit. Hmm. Yeah, globe reads. The following two snippets are logically identical. Read files. Yeah, that's slightly scary. Oh, resource allow list. When attempting to read the resource checked against resource allow list in embedded mode. There's security manager. Oh, interesting. For access to be granted, at least one, for example, allow list grants access to resources. Interesting. Okay, okay. So, um, okay. So let's start. Uh, let's start with this. So we have, I don't know, term, right? So if I'm saying that instead of for, it's going to be read and term. Okay, so it read it. But now if I do allow list and it's just like empty. Okay, refusing to read the resource because it doesn't match entry in allowed list. Okay, prop. Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, so let's say prop. Yeah, so let's just copy this. So this is going to be allowed. Yeah. So now nth term is not allowed. If I go to for, it works. But if I go to term, it doesn't work. But if I say and test, still doesn't work. And if I say and term, it works. And interesting. So this works as a prefix. Yeah. So oh, oh no. Oh no. Oh no. No. Yeah. Yeah, this is slightly crazy. Yeah, so like I'm allowing everything, and if it's like if it starts with public or something like that, right? It's like, well, if 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 my stuff starts with public, hmm, didn't work. Cannot find resource. Yeah, but if I yeah, okay. But it said if I do read question mark, and if I don't define it, yeah, I got null. So if I do it this way, works. Okay, cool. Um, so allow resources is a really good find. This makes my life much easier because it's like, oh yeah, I can do it. in a more in a more controlled or more safe way. It's like, oh, I'm afraid that my users are going to like read files or read HTTP resources, all that stuff. Yeah, so that sounds good. Allow list is a good find. Yeah, so now let's do the verification stuff. Um, uh, yeah. Uh, so what I'm looking for is like example where they have, you know, like a separate schema. Yeah, filling out a template. I think that's how they call it. So amending, blah blah blah. How do you force that it should be matching? Some kind of like module objects. You can import module if you run and both, blah blah blah. Spread amending. Yeah, so I wonder, yeah, I wonder like in what order you're gonna do everything. Do you import your kind of like schema and pass like another object as a prop to it, or okay, so you can define a pipeline. Okay, interesting. Start off with specifying blah blah blah. So far defined running produces an error message blah blah blah. Okay, okay, still not 100% sure I understand how to do this. um yeah, they also have examples, so I wonder how deep examples go. Yeah, so I have pickle app config, which is this. um this module, this, import all of that stuff and export stuff. Yeah, yeah, sure. Not sure this is exactly what I wanted. Okay, so I have pickle and my basic pickle. So I'm okay. Interesting. Convert YAML manifests located in YAML directory to pickle. Uh, can I tell you something? Sure, you can tell me something. Uh, this is the input. This is the output. Interesting. Convert to pickle. They have a tool to convert YAML to pickle. Okay. To evaluate all this stuff. Uh, misspelled name. Oh, this is interesting. They can use pickle as kind of like a type checking. So it's like, yeah, so if I have like a JSON files and I can, instead of writing JSON schema, I convert JSON to pickle files and then run type checking on pickle. Oh, this is interesting. I wouldn't even. I'm glad that I looked in those examples. I entered because it's programming and saw woman instead of a guy with a deep voice. Okay, still don't know what you're talking about, but okay. So projects. Um, so pickle project. Command project. Okay. And then dependencies. Schema package. KTS. Don't know what KTS means. They were also promising to us to have some like test files, but you have no idea how it works. Yeah, and they're implementing. I think in pkl they're like implementing some like Kubernetes helpers. I don't know. I guess they're like defining like this type and whatnot. It's like, hey, use this type to create this thing. Output. Interesting. What does output mean? So if I just write everything output, is that, yeah, tells me that they don't have formatting. Expected. Okay. Yeah. Is output like one of the types they're defining there? Okay, and that was basic. They have advanced. Okay, evaluate all manifests run this. Depending on the shell, you might need to your okay. Write all resources as YAML and write each resource into its own file. Okay. So have template web service. Yeah, now I'm wondering if that output was like a special type. Okay, so all of those are pickle men's dot 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 dot. What does that mean? Yeah, I'm still not exactly clear on the organization, like how everything should be put together to get a better result. But let's keep all of this stuff for now. Let's go write some code. Uh, yeah, all the like, yeah. I'm curious now to like do the like the type checking. That sounds fun. Um, okay. So this is what we had working. We can read and variables and all that stuff. Um, I don't remember. I think someone said is like, "Hey, can I use this instead of like T3env?" I think that was the question that Theo was answering in his video. And it's like, "Hey, can I use it instead of T3env?" And it's like, well, it's not the worst idea, right? So if you run pickle and if you generate JSON file, you can import that JSON file in your application, right? And you can know that it matches some kind of like types and such. But how do you share that, right? So like T3env is like npm package. How do you share your pickle stuff? And it's the pickle is not going to care about like all of this, like, hey, this is server, this is client, like this is dead code elimination, all that stuff. So um I don't see how you can do it, but maybe you can do it. Yeah. So let's go to language. um so one of the things that is like pretty interesting is like the and like inline validation. So you can say like, hey, this has to be a string, has to be like length 10 and such. Yeah, so this, right? So blah blah blah, check syntax and types. Um, the template can provide blah blah blah. Particularly writing a template. Okay, so we have this template. So for all of this stuff, it's like I have species, but now species has to be a string. And it's like, well, it's already a string. But if I say int, it's like, well, it's not an int. And it's like, okay. So the more interesting stuff starts where we have some kind of like objects, right? So we have this, and I can say that now it's not a string, but it's a language. And it's like, well, of course it's not a language. Expected but got string. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So if I create, how do I convert this to language, right? I need this name equals this. Okay. New. Yeah. Okay. Now it works. So now did you notice that output doesn't just emit the type signature, it also adds new? We'll discuss that further. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So all of those like matching that type. Uh, Perfect name, but it's okay. Uh, I've been reading like docs a bit, and I'm like, I know kinda what I'm looking for, but I don't know where it was in docs. Okay, so I wonder if that's, now that you know about types, you can start writing your first template. Um, uh, it's often easier to first write configuration for which you want to create a template. Suppose you want to define, yeah. So I have like a exact data. So this is just the data that I want. Uh, Call your new template pkl file. Although not required, it's good practice to always name your template with module callouts. Okay, interesting. Um, Defining the first few properties are like you saw in the previous example. Okay, this is kind of like the type checking, right? So like I have this data, so like presumably I just got like JSON file and I converted it to pickle, but now I want to add type checking, and I'm like, hey, this thing should have a title. Um, okay, so this is my data, and now I want to create a template.pickle, and that is going to be module language. Miss you, yeah. Uh, I told it a bit like on the start of the video is that I was busy, so uh, I was busy, and I also was looking for like a topic that would be kind of like interesting to talk about. I had like different ideas, but for this one, I was like, hey, if I get 10 likes on Twitter, I will do it, and I got 10 likes, so I'm doing it. Um, yeah, so we're learning Pickle. Uh, I'm I read a bit like of the docs. I watched a couple of videos. I'm still trying to understand how to build like exact like like workflows with it. So the thing that we're trying is that we have this file where we kind of like playing these things, and we can just like run it and get like, hey, this is this is this object and such. But how do we kind of like type check it? So uh, so I have this thing. I'm kind of like following that part. So it's like, hey, you can define some things. So like in this case, we can define I don't know that it should have name string, for example. And like this first view properties, event as an object. Okay. Okay, they have like pretty complicated object. Okay, so now right. So this stuff. Um yeah. So now I'm importing that file. So okay. The import brings the name tutorial part into the scope. Okay. Okay. So if I say import test.pickle and I don't run test anymore, I'm writing I'm running template. Wait. Okay, so it's like, hey, try to read property name, but the value is undefined. So if I say that I have a name here, okay, still doesn't work. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Try to read property name, but it's undefined. So I have module, I have import, and I have all this stuff. Okay, so if I don't have type, I just do this, it's fine. If I do name and I say test, it's also fine. But how do I get this? Yeah, this is slightly more complicated. Gender title. Okay, so can I use classes? Okay, cannot find type language. Interesting. Oh, I guess maybe I have like duplicate. Um, it's a this one is temple. Okay. So cannot find type language. This is slightly confusing. Okay, so let's just follow the thing that they have. Copy. Okay. Yeah. So if I do pickle eval works. So now if I create a workshop pickle and insert all of this stuff and eval workshop. Okay, it doesn't work. Great. Cannot find module tutorial part. Okay, so that's like another file. Okay. create this file. So this is our like type. Okay. Okay. Try to read property title, but its value is undefined. Okay. Feel like I'm getting the same error. I wonder if their docs just not matching the latest version or whatnot. What version do I have? Have yeah, have this version. Okay. Okay. This one amends. Oh, okay. Okay. I wonder if I'm like running it wrong. Um, so they're just running it here. Okay. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So the part that they don't understand is that so what they're thinking is that I should be like importing the uh, I should be importing that workshop file as well. I was trying to figure out what this pickle is. Yeah, it's pickle language. So it's it's kind of like a smaller language. You could do a lot of this stuff with just like TypeScript, which of course you can do everything with TypeScript, but like you can say like, hey, I have this like Dino module that I'm running in this like security mode, so it can only access like this or that stuff, and by the end of it, it should generate me like a JSON with configuration. But it's like, hey, would I want to have Dino now as a dependency in my like Java program? So they want to have like a smaller Dino that that does just configuration. It doesn't do kind of like too much, but they have a bunch of like helpers, especially like for units, right? So like in this one is like 1.5 hours. I think Go does a bit of that stuff, but it's like 30 minutes, right? Or you can have like 30 megabytes. So when you're writing a config, you don't have to rely on convention. You can rely on like actual kind of like type checking, which sounds like a good idea. So the part that I'm trying to figure out here is like how do you enforce like stuff? I think it's done with amend, but I just don't understand how amend works. uh, so let's say that I'm amending uh, amending this one. Interesting that like some of them are like lowercase, some uppercase. Okay. Class needs local modifier. Interesting. Define non-local class. Open extension. Okay. Local modifier. Okay. Okay. Local property. Property with modifier local can only be a reference where it's defined. wow, following you is essential. uh, oh, I also get comments in YouTube. That happens rarely. Is it something like type restricted JSON? Well, yeah, that's a good question. So first part is that it's not JSON. uh, uh, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to kind of like I'm going to make this thing work first. I will probably just like remove a bit of stuff. Non-local objects cannot have type annotation. Yeah, like I like the error messages. They kind of like pretty fun. So let's just remove all the classes that are causing the issues, and it's like a title. So non-local object cannot have type annotation. Okay. Well, yeah, probably doing this wrong. Cannot find type event. Okay, let's remove the type event then. Cannot type session. Sure, let's remove session. Title property string is valid defined. Okay. I guess I'm giving up on this like structure stuff. So let's talk a bit about like JSON. So the idea here is that you are writing real programming language. So this is our test pickle. And the output seems pretty simple. It's like, hey, I created this object with this field and like that object. And I can convert it into JSON. It's like, yep, now I can import it in JSON. And I think they have like plugins for stuff because I think they already like added like a few formats since I first looked at this. So you can say like, hey, can you show me XML? Can you show me YAML? Oh, what's happening? It's A. Okay, it's YAML, right? So which means that like, hey, I'm writing like GitHub actions. I can use kind of like real programming language while writing it, and the output is going to be YAML. If I'm doing something wrong, right? So like here I define this class. So this is more like a struct. They're working. This tool is expected to be consumed from Java, so they're calling it class so that like people from Java are not scared. It's like, hey, I have this class, and like if this name is not going to match, it's going to be like, hey, I couldn't make it work because like on the line 11, I see name, but this object has only like name 2. And it's like, oh yeah, cool, sure. Like that's what I meant. Um, so yeah, so this is the point of the stream is to play a bit with the like the programming language of it all. But the because I want to use it wrong, but like to use it right, you do something like this. This is the thing that I can like play it a bit with. Not template. It's, yes. So you can define what this thing have access to. So you can say like, hey, it can read environment, but it can only read environment that starts with like test, right? And now like, hey, my script tried to read environment, but it's like it's not allowed. And I'm like, okay, I want to allow all the environments. And I can say it can read files, it can read HTTPS, and so on. So I can be kind of like stricter with it. It's like, well, maybe I'm getting this config from like just like a user, right? they can change their settings for their project or whatnot, and they're just like send me a pickle file, and I can whitelist some resources for them. Um, yeah, so that part that for me is like kind of like close to Dino. Um, but yeah, it's kind of like a bit more advanced than just JSON, but not all the way advanced like TypeScript. Um, so yeah, so I just wanted to play with like loops and such, uh, because they have, in terms of the language, they have like uh, if statements and all that stuff. So let's say I want to do some kind of like countdown, right? Um, and like count down. So the countdown is going to have a number, and for now, let's just return the number. And I here can just call countdown and just call it as 10. Now run it. I'll play a bit more stuff. Did you mean countdown, right? So like I have a typo somewhere, and it's like, hey, you have a typo. So now the types is number here, but name is a string, right? And it's like to string. Oh, now it works. Yeah. So now, if the number is where are the conditions? When? Interesting. If statement, if expression. Yeah, if expression. Yeah. So if number more than 0. Oh, interesting. What print does? Okay. Yeah, I think it's just like Copilot imagine stuff. Yeah, the syntax is a bit different, right? So if this, then countdown, else 0. Okay, so we have 0. Uh, so what I want to do is I want to have current number to string plus this else empty string. Okay, so 10, 9, all of that stuff. So I can plus, I don't know, 2 dots, right? 10, 9, all of that. I guess 0 here. Okay, that's better, right? So we can do simple loops. And if we can do simple loops, uh, we can do, I don't know, Fibonacci or something, right? Or like factorial. So your so you're saying like the port number in your application has to be a factorial, something like that. That could be a fun thing. Uh, they have like conditions. I don't exactly remember how it's done. Um, Conditionals, because you can say kind of like um, yeah, so something like this, right? It's like it's a string that is in between, and it's like how do I define is between, because like I can write my own function that is doing in between, right? So it's like length is odd, Constant arbitrary expressions. Author, blah blah blah. Here's sample, and whose letters are, yeah. So it's like, and how do I call a function here? Okay, let's do this. The name is this. Um, yeah, so length is odd is violated. Okay, and now how do I do um how do I do my own function, right? Then my own uh check. Okay, so can I just do it with a comma? My own check. Do not reference property from here because it's not const. Okay, can I send const? Uh, it cannot render value function, right? So hidden const. Can I do this? Okay. Uh, so expected value number, but got the type string. Okay. I can do string. Well, actually, I wanted port, right? I wanted to do port, which is number, and it should run my own check. So that was the idea. Now it should say that, like, hey, you're missing port, and I'm like, okay, so port is going to be 123. Okay, so my own check passed, but now if it's like -123, it's like, hey, that's bad. And I'm going to say, so my own check is going to be if the number is I don't know, is Fibonacci, right? Right. And how do you check if something is Fibonacci? So I need first I need to have um, I need to have Fibonacci generator. So if number is more than one, how do you do Fibonacci? So you do like uh, fib fib apply plus this L0. Okay, is that going to work? Okay, so now yeah, so now let's say that fib apply 1. Okay, uh, constraint is violated. Okay, oh, because it's 0. Sure. Okay. Okay, I think I'm doing it wrong. So Fibonacci for 0 is 1, it's not 0, right? Okay, so 0 is 1, then it's 2, then it's 3, then it's 5, 8. Okay, that sounds good. Yes. Fibonacci numbers. 0, 1, 1, 2. Okay. Is it 0, 1, 1, 2? Okay, they're saying it's 0. Okay, let's say that if a number is 0, then it's 0, else this. Then, so 0 is, yeah, 0 is 0, 1 is 1, 2 is 1, 3 is 2. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we have Fibonacci. So now, like, how do I check if the number is Fibonacci? So I want to do a loop. So first I'm going to check is Fib checker, and I'm going to apply that with the number that we got and the like the current index. So it will start with 0, and then, yeah, interesting why this one had to be const, because we're using it here. um I'm not sure if this is like the best syntax. This is just the syntax that works, so I'm not complaining. Yeah, so here's the number that we're looking for. Then we have current. So if the current is more than number, okay, then it's false. If the current is the same as number, then it's true. Otherwise, if the Fibonacci checker okay, interesting why it does current plus Fibonacci. The way that I would have done it is just like current plus 1. Um, yeah. But yeah, that's not correct. Yeah, I think that was right. Yeah, but it's not Fibonacci. It's okay. So I want to check the next Fibonacci number. So I want to check. No, that's not it. Okay, so the current is the position of the thing, right? Yeah, so I need both the position and the. Okay, this is too complicated. I was like, hey, I should just pick it like an easy one. Okay, so I want to go up. So I want to have. I want to have. I want to start with 0, and then I'm going to. I need the previous one. Yeah. I need the previous Fibonacci number. So I need to start with 0 and 1, and then it's like previous and current. So if the current is less than number, do it again with the current and previous and current plus 1. Okay, so this looks more like it. Okay, so cell. Okay, add modifier const. Okay, sure. As you say. Okay. So now, okay. 5, yes. 90. Okay. Takes a while. Let's hope it's not a while loop. Oh, sorry, not a like endless loop. Okay, let's do 20. Okay, 25. Okay, 30. Yeah, I wonder if there's like a integer overflow or something like that, and maybe it will like, get stuck at some point. But yeah. So the idea is that if I have this number, which is uh, Fibonacci 30, it works. But if I have like one more, it's like, hey, constraint is fib violated. This number should be Fibonacci before we can proceed. Okay. So now that we did this, let's go advent of code. I don't know if it's 20, 23 or 24. I only did the first one, I think. Am I logged in? Okay, maybe I didn't even do it. I was pretty sure that they did it. Where are they? Yeah, I guess I did it in last year. So what was the last year? Calories. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So what's this year? Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure I did it. Don't know. It's not there. Okay. So something is wrong with no production. Blah blah blah. Weather machine. Trebuchet. Is this your personal blog or is it shared? Okay, which blog? What are we talking about? uh, okay, so calibrate the value. Else now need to recover each line. The calibration value can be found by combining the first digit and the last digit in the form of single two-digit number. For example, is 12. Okay. Um, so we're going to create AOC 23011 dot pickle. Uh, so its answer equals 0. Now, if I pickle eval, it's 0. Okay, cool. Um, yeah. So now I have this as an input, and I'm going to say, what is it? Get number dot apply on this, and we're going to say that get number is what's the syntax? Is a function that takes string and returns. Let's say it doesn't return anything. Can I run it? No. Why can't I run it? Probably this. Okay. Cannot run the function. Yeah, I wonder how I. Is it local? Yeah. Okay. Wonder what's the best way. What's the best way to this? But anyway, so we can do it here. So we can return s, right? So now we want to find the first digit and the last digit. And as far as I remember, like the second part is that you should be uh if there's like a if like one as a word, you should treat it as a digit as well. So we can create a list of all digits. So uh let's say digits, and we are going to uh they're like lists somewhere. I guess strings are also like important. uh, they have register regexes and stuff. Regexes. uh yeah, so like how would I get the first character of a string? Character classes. Okay. Quoted identifiers. Yeah, I was curious that they have like those fancy quotes. Stream after ages, yes. Uh, I was busy and I was looking for a good topic to get back to. And yeah, interesting. They define function here. Okay, can I define function like this? Yeah. Uh, say that it's just returning s bird. Did I remove the bird? Okay, interesting. Yeah, so I can say get number. I can say function get number, and doesn't work. Cannot find property. Uh, Interesting. I don't need dot apply for function. Oh, cool. I'm finally figuring out the like the right syntax. uh, I'm hooked now. Yeah. So it's not TypeScript. So this is a whole language. It's called Pickle. The idea is that this is how they're like selling it to you. They're like, hey, you can write your stuff in Pickle, and then you can convert it to JSON, to YAML, to like whatever you need, right? It's like, cool, that's fine, but like, why? So the why is that you can say like, hey, I have this configuration, and like port can only be in like between like this number and that number, and you can actually write a bunch of like just like code, right? And this is what I'm kind of like curious in, is like how do you use it as like as a proper language, right? Can I solve advent of code with it? So this one we wrote Fibonacci thing, so it only will allow you to set a port to a number that is on the Fibonacci sequence. So if you pick a port that's not on the Fibonacci, it will just like not allow it, because like this object, which is kind of like a struct, or I don't know, yeah, a record maybe, not record. So in TypeScript that would be like an object, right? It's like, hey, port has to be a number and it has to check that Fibonacci stuff works. So we're playing right now with like, hey, how do I get the first digit from the string? And it's like, well, I need probably some kind of like array. And how do I guess, do they have join? Do they have split? No. Why would they? they have trim, they have contains. So what's going to happen if I get something like this? If I'm like trying to get the first symbol? Okay, so it works. Uh, cool, cool. So I need to find. Okay, so let's just say get first number, and it's going to be S and 0. So 0 is like the current position. Um, so the get first number is, and yeah, I can add types. I can say like, hey, this is a string, this is a number, and so on, or I cannot. That's also an option. Current position. And so for now, let's say that it will just return as 0. Okay, so if I run it, it returns the first one. If I run and say 1, it returns 8. Okay. So the idea is that we want to say if uh, if digits includes s current position. Okay, okay. Um, so contains drop last ends with index of last index matches. Interesting. Starts with take. I was split. Oh, interesting. They have split. Do I need split? Maybe I need split. Okay. Let's not get ahead of. So instead of contains, it's yeah. Instead of includes, it contains. Yeah. So it's true. So the first one is a digit. Um, cool. So if it contains, then return uh, then return, I guess, like this to number, else do recursion. Cool. So missing on digits. Yeah. Okay. What are we talking about? Oh, doesn't know how to call itself. Um, function, blah blah blah. Available methods. Oh, it can't do to number. Okay, let's not do to number yet. Let's just do this. Okay. Yeah. So if I have this, okay, it knows how to find it. Now, so this is the get first. Now let's get last. So it's the same. It just goes to the other direction. And so instead of get first, it's get last, and it's s length minus 1. Something like this. So it's 2. And oh, okay. Okay, 2 repetitions of 3. Interesting. Character index is out of range. Okay, so it's trying to access current position. Okay, yeah, like the error messages are like so fun. Character index 8 is out of range from 0 to 7. I guess how many characters is this one? Is 8. The length is 8. current position is okay. Yeah, so if I start with 0, it's 1. If I start with -1, yeah, 1 is outside. If I start with 8, that's that error. But if I start with 7, okay, am I? Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, that all makes sense. I'm calling like the wrong. I'm not recursing. I'm like switching to the other one. Okay, so it found 2. Uh, yeah. So now the question is like how we turn uh type uh uh to string. So where did you find to string? Okay, to okay, it's not it. To string. Yeah, it's not it either. Oh, how do I get number? Um, so type conversion, I guess. It's no worries. I'm not live too often, so I, I understand you're not expecting me to be there. Okay, int. I wonder why can't we do something like this? Like just like convert it to int. Uh, yeah, int 16. Okay, let's just say int 32. Did you mean apply? Yeah, I wish that what it had like autocomplete. Or does it? No. Are you are we able to use pickle anywhere useful now? Does it just images and false? Yes. So that's kind of like that's the part that it didn't really figure out. Um, it does emit JSON files. That's already good. We looked at examples before. So with examples, there were like a few interesting ones. So what they were doing here, Pickle has kind of like a built-in modules and such. So what they were doing there, they were taking YAML files and converting them to Pickle, and then globing over kind of like those pickle files and checking if like all the types are correct. So a lot of people would use like Zod or like schema, JSON schema validation and all that stuff. And it's like, oh, cool. You can actually just like, as long as they have a module to convert stuff to pickle, you can just like write pickle validation for your data. And if you're like, I don't know, like importing like a tons of files, it's like, well, that's actually cool. Like it could work or not. So I don't know. Sounds pretty interesting. Um, yeah. So the other thing is that like this type checking, you can like imagine you have like a server, and that server requires like a host and a port. And instead of writing all of those checks in uh let's say like Zod again, right? You can write it in pickle, and they have like a level of embedding. um if you go to go, right, you can just say, hey, I want to read my config from config.pickle, and they kind of like I think they're doing some code generation. I'm not entirely sure, but it's like, well, as reading JSON file, right, to configure your application, you can use this. I think they also have like some kind of like live reload and all that stuff. So it's like you have like a long running server, someone changed your config. Yeah, it used to be a thing. It was like PHP and Apache and such. I don't know if like people actually do that nowadays with like serverless and all that stuff. But it's like, well, at least like in dev, right? You have a config, you changed it, and you have like a live server that can detect that it happened. It's like, oh, cool. I have like a new config and it's all valid, or like I have a new config and there's like an error there. So, so that sounds kind of like interesting uh, later down the line. Uh, yeah, I'm not sure like how code generation kind of like exactly plays out and all this stuff. Uh, but you run Java generator, it generates Java file for for all the like structures. Um, so it's just not like a flat thing, but you can have like an object that has like fields and all that stuff. I've heard of DAL before. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's kind of like where my mind went with this one as well. Yeah, 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 it's in the same space. The other thing that we played as well was this allow resources. So Pickle knows how to read kind of like CLI arguments. It knows how to read environment. It knows how to read files. It can like go to fetch some data from HTTP. But with this allow resources parameter, you can just like turn on and off like what it has access to. So I like with the sandbox environment, that means that I can just like have pickle to be a config that like my users can use, right? And you just can upload like a new file, and I can run this thing sandboxed and get like an output on the in the end, right? And it's like if it wants to read some environment variable, I just say like here, here's the environment that you're allowed to read. Here's the file that you're allowed to read, and you can go and like access this HTTP stuff, but not all the other one. Which I don't know, could be promising, could be like a use case. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They have like a huge focus on Kubernetes stuff. A lot of their examples are like Kubernetes. Uh, and like I played with Pulumi before, which is you're writing like TypeScript code as like, hey, bucket could have a name and like it get the reference like that resource and that resource, right? And it's because like no one's write Terraform, right? Yeah, and but with Pulumi is like you have like a whole language, right? And like it runs Node or and like uh, it can get too fancy. Yeah, so Pulumi has YAML. Oh no. You were the chosen one. You were supposed to fight, not to join them. Yes, this is too much. Why do they have YAML? Okay, let me close this. I don't want to see it anymore. Okay, so anyway, so in the spirit of like using tools right, let's use it wrong. And it's like, can I just like write my code now? I'm giving up on TypeScript. Like, why would you even need this? All of our stuff should be side effect free. like the best we can do is just output a file in the end. So it's like, yeah, this is exactly like the level that we need this. So the thing that I'm trying to do is like, how do I convert to integer, something like that. Yeah, I didn't find it yet. I know how to convert to strings, so that like that one I found. Um, hmm, they have also like resources to int. Interesting. Okay. I think we found it. They have syntax highlighting, but they don't have like any autocomplete or anything like that, which is the biggest problem so far for me. Cool. So okay, so it's a number now. Uh, so what I'm trying to do is like, when looking at this line, it should output 12. So it should concatenate them as strings first, but then once I get the string 12, I should turn it into an integer. Okay, 12. Cool. uh, a Python. Yeah, well, I was also thinking about Python, but it's like too many curly braces. If you look at the pickle code, where you have like defining an objects and stuff, it's like curly brace, curly brace. Yeah, like Python people would not understand how this works. Yeah, I was actually going to do this video like a week ago. All the like Primogens and Theos already made a video about this, but they're not going to do this with it. But I will. Yeah. So we have 12 for this. Um, this one should be 38. This one should be 15. Actually, there's this thing already. I don't even remember. Like, I think I was using like OCaml, but maybe I like connected with like a different account or something. I don't see it now. uh, Python pickle files have pickle extension. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So the pickle is like the way they save. They can save objects, like serialized objects, to disk, and that's called pickle. In Erlang, it was called term to binary, something like that. Yeah, term to binary. So you can just like get any Erlang term, they call it, but like any object, any like type, and just like save it. Yeah. They're using it to like send it over the network. So you're like, hey, I created this object in that on this machine. Yeah, just send it over that machine, and it will be fine. Because it will even like allow you to serialize like process IDs and stuff. So it's like, hey, and like call me once you're done. I was like, cool. Okay, so we did the like kind of like string to number. So now we're going to do a bit of like file reading. So we have uh, uh, txt. So this is going to be our like input. Okay. Uh, yeah. So it's going to be interesting. So let's say, uh, yeah. How would I read it as a file? So for that, I'm going to use read. Interesting. So that's like reading pickle files. Okay, so if I want to do feed input.txt, not input.txt, it's this one. I want to read this, and it read it. Interesting. It read it in this fancy way. Right, and now let's, I was talking about like allow resources. So if I do the same thing, but like allow resources is empty, it still did it. Okay. Okay. It should be empty string. It should be something. Okay. Now cannot read resource file because it doesn't match anything in resources. Right. And if I just do file colon, will that work? Okay, it will. If I do this, it will not work. So if I do AOC, oh, okay. If I do AOC this way, no. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so if I do file column here, colon here, that work? Okay, it does. Does that work? Okay, interesting. It's like the path resolution is different if I use this or that. Does this also come with usable HTTP library? Yeah, I don't know how much they wanna like like the biggest thing is that they have their own kind of like packages. So it's kind of like similar to Dino. You just like point to URL. So you can say like, hey, I want this library that will like help me work with JSON. I want this library that does this or that. So it's like, well, eventually they might have some kind of like fetch library. Yeah. Okay, so I can read this file. Um, what they what did they have about files? Okay, not much. File URL, HTTP URL. Yeah. Okay. So if I read this and I do dot text, I wonder why they're doing base 64. That's strange. So if I do this one, yeah, split by. Okay, so it returns a list. If I do JSON, that's going to be like an array, right? Okay, so I have a list. Interesting that it dropped the empty elements. It's like I didn't have to deal with that. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, so for each one of them, can I do map? Did you mean map, index, max, map, non null? Okay, not sure what any of those mean. Map indexed. Oh, so it adds like a number. Interesting. Okay. What was the other one? Map, non null. Yeah, just like nothing in docs. I think if they had autocomplete, it would have been like not as bad. But yeah, they have some autocomplete. I think if you're like here, you can do this. So it's like it helps with a bit of that. A little bit like have like 9 keywords. The standard library looks surprisingly small. Uh, yeah. Well, again, they they have like module system, so they can do more probably. Okay, so let's say we have map and we want to convert it to something. Okay, expected. Yeah, I guess maybe like underscore. Huh. Okay. Using wrong syntax. Right. Okay. So there is map. I'm not sure why they were telling me to use the other ones. Yeah. So if I do this, it will be fine. So now I just get number for x. Okay, so it converted it. Can I just do this? No. Here's why not. But okay, doesn't really matter. Right. So now can I reduce it? Right? Can I do something on this? Yeah, they have some, which probably not a bad one to try. Okay. Again, I'm happy with like the error messages. Error messages are just like really great. So they have count. They have every filter, group, map, map index, max, mean, reduce. Okay, they have reduce. Starts. I don't see some to dynamic, whatever that means. Take while, transpose. What's transpose? Join, fold, flatten. Okay, I like fold. That sounds really object oriented. Let's try fold. So fold expects 2 arguments. Okay, so yeah, so okay, do. Okay, so the second one should be a function. Yeah, and it's like if I'm working on like JSON file and I have like JSON schema validator, do I want to use that or do I want to uh, show like those fancy error messages? Okay, so we got 142, which is yay. That's the correct result. So we can say um, example 01 is this, and now I can, yeah, we should probably make it as a like a function again, but probably going to be too lazy. So if I get my input, so that one's going to be real. Okay, now I just do the same thing, but with a real file and answer and just run it. And I got this, and you can try it. That's the right answer. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, one other fun one is they have REPL, so you can kind of play there. You can start with this, but you can also do split this map, this such and such, right? Yeah, so it's like interesting. So like whatever you're doing the top level, it's kind of like a field on your object. They have like different examples how they organize everything. Usually they would have some kind of like output, um, some kind of like output object that will have like all of those fields and such. Uh, cannot set property. Is this? I don't remember the syntax already. So new. What was the syntax? Yeah, so it should be just this. It should be just output. Cannot find property in object module output. Interesting. Oh, I guess it's like a reserved word. So AOC, right? And you can kind of like organize them and so on. I think if you're returning multiple versions of the same thing, there's some way to like turn this into array as well. Uh, Interesting. So what does this do? How output? Okay, so B first. Okay, so test. Top level value must be typed or dynamic, but got string. Okay. Yeah. I guess it has to be. I guess it has to be an object. Which is yeah, because if you're doing, you can do that in like JSON and XML, but for some of the other output formats that they have, like a property list or something like that, it can't be. It can't be just a string. It has to be like an object. Equal reactor components. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're speaking my language. uh, I think the way that I'm looking at it, like my mind goes into like T3M, right? It's like, what if I have a vault for all of my secrets, and when I'm reading from that vault, I'm not just like setting it to env. I'm actually using like pkl to parse it and say like, hey, like this version of this application is like not compatible with the data that you have involved or something like that. So like that's kind of like where my mind goes. Um, yeah. So yeah. So we played with output. It can be object. It can't be string. I wonder if it can be string if the format is JSON or something like that. Yes. Yes, it can be. That's fun. And I guess XML as well. Um, so they have JSON, PCF, plist, properties, XML, YAML. Can it do YAML? Yes, YAML, XML, text proto. Who knows what that is? But it supports things. Yeah, probably properties can't work. Yeah, and the plist. Isn't that the same? Okay, so plist properties and whatever PCF is. I'm guessing PCF is like like pickle out default output that they're doing. The only one that's left is JSON net, whatever that is. Yeah. So basically, like everything except for properties and PCF, like everything except for this ones. Yeah. So you would use this if you can output just a string. But usually you would just do this. Okay. Uh, JSON net looks like pickle. Yeah, it does. It does a bit. I haven't heard about JSON net before. Um, yeah, yeah. So anyway, this thing looks cool. Uh, doesn't have any docs. Well, I mean, it has some, but uh, most of the stuff that we figured out was through error messages. Um, we know how to create functions. We know how to create like local stuff. Um, it's not the nicest thing in terms of it's kind of like cool that it's kind of like functional and all of that stuff. It reminds me a bit of like Nix and such. Uh, but I think once you're writing like 15 uh, conditions that are just have to be like in this syntax, they don't have like statements, they only have expressions. So like if is an expression. They also have a bit of like loops, but I guess you would probably want to do loops through this. One thing we haven't tried actually, which could be like a good thing in terms of readability, is they have a pipe operator, right? So I read my thing and then I send it to this, right? Uh, so cannot find proper text. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, that didn't work. I guess I'm using it wrong, right? So what exactly should I be doing? Yeah, I should be sending like this to read. Okay, mismatch input. Uh, maybe read without this. No, also no. Okay, let's read docs then. Just trying it out didn't work. uh, so so I have a, I have this, and I have this. So single parameter anonymous functions can also be applied with the pipe operator. So I can take 4, multiply by 3, add 2, and so on. Like methods, anonymous functions can be recursive. All right. So yeah, they have factorial. Yeah, I'm not sure how to use this pipe operator. So get number is anonymous function. So if I have x, can I call a get number on it? I can't. I wonder if it requires like a new line. If that's what's happening here. Hmm. I'm confusion. What is happening? Yeah, so let's just call that it's a pretty useless operator. You can read. Yeah, but like in terms of the order of operator. Okay, so let's try the REPL. So I have 4. And I want to do 4 len, right? And it's, I don't know what length is. And I'm like, okay, so len is a thing that takes string and returns as.length. So now, can I do this? No. Did you mean len? Yes, I did mean len. Okay. Okay. Let's just copy what they have. Okay, so this one worked. They have 4, and I do mul 3. It doesn't work. Sorry, mul 3. Okay, this does work. So how is my len not the same as mul? It's the same. So why can I do mul, but I can't do len? Huh. Yeah, doesn't make any sense. Uh, yeah, it should work for string. Yeah. Oh. Oh. Okay. Data size and int. To int. To unit. Interesting. To unit. B. Byte. Where they get units from? I guess like 1.b. Oh, just b as a string. Cool. Cool. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, so now let's go back to our example that they tried to do. Yeah, so I defined len and then I just use it wrong. Okay, so now let's say that I have add, which is a plus b. So now if I call add 1 2, it does this. If I call mul b, and apply. Okay. So I can do 0 mul b, but can I do 0 add? No, requires 2 arguments. So if I do this, okay, it doesn't work. So if I do add a is a thing that takes b and returns this, can I do it now? Yes, I can. Okay. It's not as nice because I have to write dot apply. But if I just do this, I get a function, and if I do this, no, okay. Okay, so if I do this, okay, uh, yeah. Yeah, the things that they do to just like not use the proper things. So if I, so here we were declaring functions. So if I do function add that takes a and returns function that takes b and does a plus b. Okay, no variable alternative at input. Okay. Oh yeah, function. Okay. So now can I do the same thing with add? Okay, can't. Interesting. So can I do this with add to? Okay. Yeah. It's curious this definition difference between like functions and lambda like anonymous lambdas, because I had to do dot apply here, but because my function returns a lambda, I can just do this. Yeah. So given all of this knowledge, can we now do this with um, uh, now that we know all of this stuff, can we do pipe operator somewhere here? Yeah, like the pipe operators in like Elixir, for example, they're like much fancier. So I can express stuff like to int and such, but maybe not here. Okay, I'm going for 2 hours. I was aiming for one. I have to close all of this stuff. Let me try to commit everything. I don't want to commit the pickle itself. For some reason, they didn't ask me to do global install, so they're just like, yeah, just download the executable, it'll be fine. Yeah, so executable, all right. Um, yeah, so don't need this anymore. They have like a fancy stuff like pickle server, like a lot of different stuff. Uh, I can't get through all of this. Uh, uh, so we have this, and I don't have readme, and I don't have a command that was running in this bit. Yeah, so this one I can just create like run SSH, I guess. Maybe readme.md. Oh, okay, it's wrong code again. Okay, run. Okay. Uh, so let's push it, and and it's pushed. Cool. Thank you again, everyone who joined. It was nice to see like a few familiar faces that that apparently following me and looking for me going online, even if I didn't do it for like 4 months. Yeah, hopefully I will come up with something as interesting as this one next time. Okay,